Hello and welcome to Remnant 2. Today we're going to be doing a Guts cosplay. Oops. We're going to be playing on Apocalypse, so you get to see how it does there. And yeah, if you're not familiar with who Guts is, he's a character from manga called Berserk. Pretty well known for his giant sword, berserker armor, using various tools, fighting demons, etc, etc. Very cool character, very cool manga. And as I've been messing with doing a gray health build, I basically just leaned completely into making this character rather than a gray health build. But it still is sort of that as well. Now, the main things that kind of make this like Guts are, I would say, the weapons right now. So we have a crossbow on because he uses a repeating crossbow. This is obviously going to be single shot, so it's not going to fully like do it, and it doesn't have a ton of reload speed, so it's not going to like really pull it off, but it is the right idea. And I've got scrap shot on there because he's kind of something he would use throwing out a bunch of bombs, spiked things, knives, all kinds of stuff, right? So scrap shot I feel like fits pretty well, and scrap shot is in general one of my favorite mods actually, and with some of the rest of our setup it really combos pretty nicely. The slow effect is just very strong. Slow is just really good. And then I've got top heavy in there because it works really well as a crossbow. It only has one shot in the magazine, so it's always at like full capacity, so each shot gets that 15% damage bonus and 20% to the weak spot hits. The handgun is the Meridian. He has a cannon in his prosthetic arm, and he also uses bombs. So the Meridian shooting off little grenades, and then it having a high-powered rocket, like it just fits the bill, you know, and it's got failsafe in there, increasing the mod damage with a chance to not consume the charge. So very, very solid. And then the last piece, maybe the most important piece, is the Iron Greatsword, because he uses a giant greatsword. His main one in the end is the Dragon Slayer, but you know, he's always used a big sword compared to himself. So that's what we have, big greatsword, and it's got the Guts Mutator, naturally. It increases our melee critical chance by 25% when gray health is present, and then for every 10% that we have, it increases that crit damage. Now, that's kind of the reason I started going with a gray health build for this whole setup, is because we've got that in there, so I really wanted to kind of make that pop. In addition, with our relic, I've got another 20% melee crit damage in there, so that when we get these critical hits, like we're going to have like a 30% crit chance baseline with a melee weapon, but with the Challenger archetype, we can get up to another 10% on top of that, so we're looking at like a 40% crit chance. So getting another big chunk of extra damage on that is pretty nice. Armor-wise, I am using the Bruiser armors because, to me, this kind of fits what I think he kind of looked like or was using, like around the Golden Arc or Golden Age arc and kind of post Eclipse. If you're really trying to do the full Berserker armor look, maybe the Loadout Mark II. I could see the Fey Royal Plate would look kind of well with kind of the dark cloak looking thing as well. But I wanted to use the Bruiser armor because I don't use the Bruiser armor very much, so I thought it worked for it. And then I kind of touched on it a tiny bit. The archetypes, we're using the Challenger because, of course, he's like the struggler. He's challenging, he's pushing in. It's all the things that happen in this archetype fit Guts perfectly. And then with the Juggernaut skill, it's basically like activating his Berserk ability, where you get bulwark, movement speed, melee damage, reduce stamina cost, stagger level reduction, all of that. And I know you've got Rampage, which then makes you go Berserk, but it's all about range damage stuff, which is not what we're doing. Like, you could totally do it, like if you wanted to pivot and maybe you're trying to get a little bit more range damage, pull out the Rampage skill and that'll do well for you. But Juggernaut's where it's at for us right now. My secondary I've chosen is Medic. I think that's kind of the best choice right now. He doesn't necessarily do like he doesn't do magic, right? Guts does not do magic, unless you're going to count him being like ultra survivable, durable being magic, because it basically is. This, though, it has some nice perks on it that I think can kind of fit with some backbone. The stagger reduction when using a relic, just a flat damage chance and crit chance, so there's another 5% crit chance right there. Like, all that kind of feeds pretty well, but like, how do you justify using magic and healing stuff like that? Well, he's got Puck with him, which is a little fairy, and Puck heals him up quite a bit using his like fairy dust and stuff, so I think that fits pretty well. You could argue the healing factor is coming from Puck, which, by the way, if you have not read the manga, you think you're interested, you're partway through it. There's potential for spoilers in here. I don't plan on saying anything outlandish or crazy, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that it's very possible I will mention something that maybe you don't know about, so warning. Now for what might be the controversial part of the build is the amulet and rings and things, right? If you're thinking, all right, he's doing a Guts build, why is he not using the Whispering Marble? Because the Whispering Marble is literally just the Bayolet from Berserk. Like, it's literally, that's what it is. And I did really consider doing that because I could run this with, you know, the clay ring and just do a big, strong bulwark build, you know, like, I think that'd be pretty solid. I was wondering why this thing, it looked really polygonal and awful. Yeah, I really thought about it, but Guts, while he has one, he doesn't use it. It's not really his. So I didn't think it was right for me to use it with him. Plus, I wanted to do a Grey Health build because the Guts mutator relies on Grey Health. So I decided to lean into Grey Health. Have I said Grey Health enough? I don't know. So we've got the effigy pendant. So when we have that Grey Health, damage reduction, more damage, more hits for Grey Health to be removed. And it feels like something the Witch in the Forest would have given him as far as like one of the like fetishes and protection talismans and stuff to help them on their journey. And then I've got the Bitter Memento, which is no longer bugged. And obviously I'm using my character again, which is awesome. That's so great. But Bitter Memento sets 1% of our wearer's max health as Grey Health. So we're always going to have Grey Health, so all of our effects that rely on having Grey Health are going to be triggered. I think this works perfectly for the idea of Guts as well, because he's always injured. He's always carrying some kind of wound on him, and that's basically what Grey Health is having a wound and then, like, healing from it. And the text in Bitter Memento says, this ring is a vessel of loss, which, I mean, he's lost so much, eternally harboring a child's grief over the deaths of his mother. It doesn't talk about his feelings over his mother, but I mean, he never really knew his mother. I think there's some stuff that, there's a lot of things. I think this, I think it fits him pretty well. But then I got the Painless Obsidian, so when we have that Grey Health, we get haste. I think it fits him pretty well. Again, wounds, fighting past the pain, etc. Ring of the Damned. Grey Health, we deal more damage. It's basically like a burden that restricts the things, and they're just forever on like the hunt or something like that. And I mean, he's got the brand in him, so he's just forever doomed to just fight and try not to be sacrificed. So there's that. Last ring, I'm using the Dying Ember, mostly because, like, not for like a thematic reason necessarily. This is because I like trading with him, and in order for me to be able to trade effectively, I need this 6% melee damage as lifesteal, because it really allows me to keep swinging and getting enough health back that I can keep taking hits and just keep going. So I think this one's pretty much a requirement if you want to do any kind of trade setup, but you could totally run something else depending on your playstyle. Trait-wise, strong back, triage, regrowth, fortify, swiftness, vigor, endurance, expertise, recovery, bark skin, bloodstream, all those things maxed out, just all of them. I like bloodstream because I'm not trying to sit around with all my Grey Health. Like, having it is nice because it triggers, but we're always going to have Grey Health thanks to Bitter Memento. If I had big chunks, sometimes Guts is going to get that extra big piece of critical damage, but I'm not looking to sit around with big pieces of Grey Health left over. I want it regenerating. But as far as like a bunch of the durability things, like Guts is just a very durable character, so I wanted him to be very durable. Regrowth, I just recently swapped to, I was using Siphoner, which is okay, but I don't know, Guts is always like recovering, he's always getting healed, and having to be healed, and so I felt like him having regrowth ended up working pretty okay, and the idea of like maybe, you know, the fairies are just like healing him up a lot. I didn't mention what the relic I'm using actually does. It's a salvage tart. This thing is going to activate pretty quickly, but only provide a little bit of healing. It really provides a lot of healing when you have Grey Health, because it heals 300% of whatever Grey Health you have. We're going to be carrying a lot of Grey Health at various points, so it is going to do us a lot of good work. Oh, having some things. And now we can start seeing some work here. The crossbow, while we're not like focused on range damage, it can do some mean damage, because we've got a bunch of like generic damage boosts, and with that mutator in there, it allows you to get like a lot of weak spot damage and some decent crit chance. Now the build itself has a couple strengths, right? The main strengths I would say right now is that it is very durable, very durable. We can take a lot of hits, we can keep fighting a lot, things like that. We're gonna roll backwards a little bit and shoot off some meridian effects right here. It's also very strong against melee enemies. Like if you're up against some melee guys, you're not gonna have any problems against them. Melee mini bosses, melee elites, you're gonna absolutely shred them. So like a lot of these Fey guys that come rushing in, gonna kick their ass. They're not gonna do very well against us, and we are gonna do very well. Issues it's gonna have though, certain bosses, the whole melee aspect is useless. Like you're not gonna be able to do anything against them. In addition, you know, some of the lesser enemies, you know, if they're flying types of enemies, you're not going to be able to do much against them because they're flying. The crossbow does a little bit for us, but oops, I messed it up. I tried to do another swing and I should have just rolled right away. Let's go ahead and use a bubble now, and then we start trading into some of them. Now we move forward. There he is, and we start fighting. Now, if I wanted, I could totally use Juggernaut right now, and then go with that. Tried to neutral dodge and I messed it up. Big chop, missed again. Oh, bad dodge on my part. I knew better. I'm kind of playing it really sloppy right now. I don't know what I'm trying to do right now. Let's just, like, there's no need to make it fancy. You just go in, you start swinging, and then you win. But struggles against the flying guys. Sometimes if you can't get effective melee things, because that's where the build is strongest, is with melee attacks. If you're not able to pull those off, then, you know, you're not going to see as much return out of it. But if you're not doing like a Guts cosplay and using the crossbow and the Meridian, you could easily swap those guns to something else that's going to be just more effective for your situation. Which is kind of something that Guts would do, right? He would totally swap to whatever's going to be most effective. Because in the manga, you see him, like, he doesn't just mindlessly wade into enemies and swing his sword. I mean, it happens sometimes, but he's also smart about it. Like, there's a horde of trolls. What does he do? Pulls out the repeating crossbow and he just lays into him, a big barrage, just cutting him down as much as possible and, you know, softening them up before he pulls out the sword and just starts going to town. Roll forward a little bit. Ooh, that's okay. Now this elite dude up here, we're going to be able to see how we can kind of trade with him using Juggernaut. And we get that, like, presence thing on him, the intimidating presence, so he's actually dealing less damage. And even with that second dude coming in and whacking us, like, we're doing pretty okay as far as health goes. Like, we've got a lot of gray health that can regenerate. I'm losing a lot of frame rates, no big deal. And that's why I want lifesteal on the Fire Emblem, or the Dying Ember, is because, like, we get low, you want to trade hits, you want to get as much health back as possible. And then regrowth is doing a lot of work for us right now. Because before, we're relying on Siphoner to kind of keep healing us. But in these, like, downtime situations, we would still be really low. I would have to use a relic to heal up, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I still haven't used my relic, right? It's still a thing I could use. Cool thing with the Caltrops, right? You get an enemy like that, dude. You throw it out there, you slow him down, and then you can just go in and go crazy on some melee attacks. And there's not really much they can do because you move in fast with the extra movement speed, and then the Caltrops just keeps them from moving around, and you just go crazy with your melee attacks and just shred them down. And if they move away like you saw him do, pull out your gun and you shoot them. That's it. Let's pull a bunch of dudes here. So, I kind of mentioned it with the Caltrops and, like, melee, but it's so nice with a Meridian too, because you can pull a bunch of dudes into it, they're slow, and then you just lob a bunch of grenades out there, and you just blow them up, and that's that. It's so good. The Caltrops are so nice. I did not think it would work as well as it does with our setup. I was like, this is just something maybe he would use. It'll be fine. And it's just worked so nicely with what I'm doing. Like, between the melee attacks, between the explosives, just been a solid choice. Ooh, hi, friend. Thick skin, elemental bursting. Bursting can be kind of scary. Let's do this. Activate Juggernaut. We need to go on the other side of him. I want to force him back into the Caltrops. I don't think he's going to be able to be slowed, but him being taking a little bit of extra damage would be kind of nice. And just look how well we can trade with all these hits. We're on fire. We're stealing a ton of health. We've got a lot of gray health regeneration. However, we do need to be a little careful. We're very sturdy, but we can still die with the wrong combination of a rifle person behind us, getting caught by the big bursty effect, and this dude, like, just muscling through and hitting us. Oh, gotta reload. There we go. Alright, let's see what this is. Maybe I can get a kind of, like, boss fight or something to show you guys. I mean, I've definitely, like, the Corruptor in Yesha. No problem at all. Like, the hardest part of that one was DPS on the Corruptor itself. But the giant, or the statue, the mini-face guy, not a problem fighting that thing at all. The Witch, I fought the Witch, that was fine. Red Prince, like, there's a number of those melee ones, super easy. These guys should add some fun things, because there's a bunch of, all these rat dudes are super heavy melee. So we can move in and just kind of, just show you how it, like, it's strength. which is just the melee things. I mean, you saw it was the Executioner guy. Maybe we can find the Barghest dude, because he can be pretty scary, depending on his, like, setup and everything. That was not a great choice. In my head, I was thinking the Caltrops would hit all of them. I just need to make sure I have the full charges for the actual, you know, corrupted dude. Which, speaking of... Oh, fuck, there he is. Drop that out. Hit Juggernaut. Let's go. Oh, he's got Rat Swarm. That could be a little scary. That's a lot of damage, but we're getting a lot of lifesteal back. We're chunking them down really well, too. Look at that health go away. Let's get him some big charge attacks. 4,600 damage right there. Oh, that dropped us, unfortunately. The stupid rats are super deadly for us. So, with the Caltrops, we're going to be able to, like, kind of wipe out some of these rats when he summons them. Let's get some headshots real quick. He's probably going to summon another wave here in just a moment. Big swing damage. Get ready for another wave of rats. Yep, right there. Caltrop should do it. Roll forward, and then start going to town. We're going to roll forward again. Disactivate our shield. Circling around a little bit. Let's get some explosives in. Oh, bummer. Big swing. Oh, big swing. Yeah, 3,400. Nice. It does pretty well. Build does pretty well. Very strong against melee dudes. Pretty strong for clearing dudes. Also just very survivable. So, like, if you are, you know, if that's something you kind of struggle with is, like, not dying. This build's pretty solid for that. And we could even take it up another notch by putting on the Lido armor. You lose out in the medium roll, but you get that nice extra little bit of, like, 4% more DPS or something. Or damage reduction, not DPS. And then, like I said before as well, like, I mean, you don't have to use these guns. Like, I'm doing it for the guts portion of it. But you could totally equip all the gear and then put on, like, some different weapons. Like, get the overall loadout kind of the same. And then use whatever other things you like. Well, that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go on any more about it. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. You should give it a go. Let me know if you have any ideas of things you want me to do. Like, if you're like, oh, man, you should do a build that's like this. I don't know. Something. Let me know, and I'll give it a go, man. I've got some other ideas I need to do. I'm going to be... what am I doing? I'm going to be revisiting a bunch of my old builds because after there's been, like, 20 more trait points we can use, a DLC, I've gotten better at the game. Like, a bunch of my old builds are just kind of out of date. So I've been wanting to go back and kind of revisit them and just see how they hold up, you know? But hey, thanks for watching it, though. Always really appreciate it when people do check them out. And until the next one, take care.